25% of Americans are barely making it by, and 50% are maybe comfortable with money. Well, I read these stats in an article today, and honestly, I was just astounded by how large some of these percentages really are. With nearly a quarter of people barely making it by on their week-to-week paycheck, it's becoming a huge problem for America, and it kind of speaks to why there is that K-shaped economy that you may have heard on the news. So how do we narrow down what the root cause of these problems really are? Well, with a quarter of the people barely making it by, this is becoming a real problem for America. And with how you manage your finances, there's going to be incoming money and outgoing money as expenses. It doesn't really matter how much income you really have. It can help, but if you spend more than you make, there's always going to be an issue, and debt is going to start coming into play. A lot of people are relying on credit cards to get through. Even people making $100,000 plus in the $200,000, $300,000 range will report that they're living paycheck to paycheck, if not in a negative, and putting things on credit. Adding on to this problem, there's so many different ways that we're encouraged or enticed to spend our money, from application purchases to subscriptions to buy now, pay later opportunities. We're really allowed to push the feeling of an expense further down the line when we're allowed to have the immediate joy or the sensation of having something right now, when in reality we probably couldn't afford it. And that's some of the biggest things, is anytime you're allowed to push expenses further out and have something now, there's always going to be a trade-off, and it's going to be in the market's favor. Companies don't do this because they're trying to be nice or to help out the consumer. They're doing it because they make a lot more money. Looking at the solutions to some of these problems, a lot of it comes down to an education perspective. A lot of finances is compounding, and it can either be in the negative or in the positive. From a debt perspective, the more debt you take on, the more interest payments you're going to have, and the harder it's going to be in your day-to-day or week-to-week paycheck. And then you end up having to put more stuff on credit cards. On the opposite side, if you do investing now, the more it's going to compound, the more interest it's going to make you, and then that interest will make you more interest. And in 20 to 30 years, you'll be making more money through your investments than you are in your active income, which is really where you want to be. So I like to think of this as a journey, and realistically, it doesn't need to be difficult. It can be pretty straightforward. The first step is going to be figuring out where your money is going and how much you're bringing in. If you can't document or figure out what is the minimal amount you can spend to get by, obviously rent, transportation, food, insurances, things like that, those are going to be critical things you have to pay for. And then what are you bringing in on a week-to-week, bi-weekly paycheck? How much are you getting from your employer? And is it steady? Is this something that we need to plan for ups and downs, or is it going to be the same every 2 weeks? Once you know these numbers, you can actually plan and you can actually prepare for your next week's or bi-weekly paychecks. How much can I spend on groceries this week? How much can we go out? Can I plan for a vacation? All those things become a lot easier when you actually know what's coming in and what's going out. And then planning for that in and out, that's going to be on the micro scale. But realistically, we want to get to a place where we can look more macro and look at larger scale pictures. And that's going to be coming down to investing. Once you have your day-to-day expenses figured out, we can start putting money to the side and investing it in the stock market. This is where you're going to be included in other businesses. Their success is going to bring you success, and it's going to trickle down to eventually your retirement, where you can make more money from your investments than you are with your active income. The important thing to remember is that time is in your favor. The longer you can stick with it, the better it's going to compound and the more money you can make. It doesn't need to be large steps. Even little ones will increase over time and will do wonders in 10, 20, 30 years, the longer you can let it run. And then eventually your investments will make more than your actual income will. And that's where you want to be. It gives you total freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. If you want to see what your numbers truly are, you can check out the platform at SimpleFinances.co. You can load all your accounts, they'll sync automatically, and then check out the wealth building roadmap. It'll say where you are exactly and what the next step is. Custom recommendations right for your personal finances and based on your expenses. See what you can cut, how much you're bringing in, and where you truly are at SimpleFinances.co.